Good morning. My name is Israel Angeles. I'm the founder of FleetNurse. Imagine you're at home with your loved one. You hear a lot of crash. You walk into the next room to see what's going on. She's there crying and in pain. You take her in your car, you go rush to the ER. As you walk in, you see this. You're like, oh wow, this place is packed. You walk up to the counter, tell the nurse what happened. She tells you it's about a 2 to 3 hour wait. You're like, why? Well, apparently, some of the staff called in sick, and they couldn't find a replacement. You sit down, feeling all frustrated. This literally happens every single day in the United States. Just like everyone else, nurses and healthcare workers get sick. However, hospitals have a very difficult time finding replacements on an on-demand, short-term notice. This has direct effect on revenue, cost, direct patient care, and nurse burnout. So FleetNurse is the solution. We developed a process and software where hospitals can put in a request on an emergency on-demand notice, all via a simple, easy-to-use app. So how does it work? So when the nurse calls in, the hospital puts a request on our app. The FleetNurse app will automatically and immediately notify our network of nurses saying that the shift is available. The nurses on the network can either accept or decline the shift. It's completely up to them. Once the nurse accepts a shift, all they need to do is show up at the hospital and complete the shift. Okay? No more canceling surgeries, no more long wait times in the emergency room due to lack of staffing. All our nurses are onboarded for that facility and can easily integrate without disruption. At the end of each month, we send an invoice to the hospital with a detailed invoice of the hours worked. The nurses get paid weekly, or for a small fee, they can get paid after their shift. This is an instant connection with hospitals and providers. Our margins run between 36 to 42%. Currently, there are about 3.5 million registered nurses in the United States. The nurse staffing for part-time is about a $3 billion market in the United States and growing annually at 6%. Currently, we have over 1,800 registered nurses in our system. There are over 5,500 active hospitals in the United States. Currently, we have partner contracts in Oregon, Arizona, Texas, and New Mexico. We're a solution for healthcare staffing for their emergency on-demand needs. Thank you.
Israel, I forgot to introduce you and say your name and your title. This is Israel Angeles, who is the CEO and founder of FleetNurse.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we throw it to the audience, tell us a little bit about how this company came to be.
So I've been in the medical device industry for about 15 years. I was actually having dinner with a surgeon in Louisiana. He texted me about 7 p.m. when we were supposed to have dinner, saying he's running late. He shows up about an hour and a half later, a little bit angry because this was 2 days in a row where he was supposed to start at 7:30, didn't get started until 9:30 because they didn't have a circulator for his room, a nurse for his room. And we started talking about it, and we were like, well, someone should come up with an idea for Uber for nurses. So I was getting my MBA at the time, and so I pitched it in my venture planning class, and long story short, I'm here.
Okay, let's do questions from the audience. Who has one? Yep, Skip. You wait for the thing.
So Uber for nurses.
Oh, I don't like to use that term anymore. We're ODN, on-demand nursing. However, we've gone beyond nursing. We're actually doing CNAs and surgical techs as well.
Oh, anyway, the question is, are your nurses W-2 employees, and is there a risk that they will have to be the big Uber controversy?
Say again? Sorry.
Are your nurses W-2 employees?
No, they are not. They are all contractors.
Are you going to be able to keep it that way?
Yes. Okay. For now, at least.
Next one. Okay, there's a couple back here. Stand up.
So a question for you. You said that the nurses are onboarded with the hospital.
Yes.
So what's the process for acquiring a hospital client? And how long does it take, and how much effort is it for you guys to actually onboard a new facility?
So FleetNurse has our standard onboarding, which is based on the Joint Commission standards, which is a national accreditation for most hospitals in the United States. However, we customize our onboarding for that certain facility. So if a certain facility has certain requirements like orientation, we customize it to where any nurses who want to take shift at that facility has to meet that hospital's onboarding requirements. The hospitals are more than willing to pay for the orientation. We actually just signed an account in Houston to where they're going to pay for the orientation for the nurses. But the main reason why we do that is because quality of care. The last thing we want is one of our providers not familiar with the hospital and their policies. And so a lot of our conversations with CNOs is the first thing they ask is, how do you do your onboarding? And so our response is, well, how do you do your onboarding? Because we customize it to them.
So you mentioned earlier that nurses can accept or, kind of like pass by on the request.
Yes.
Has there been situations where no one has answered the call or like the request for a nurse?
So we've been actively placing shifts for the past 2 months, and literally every shift has been taken. So knock on wood, that's a great thing to have. So, and even during demos, we'll do demos because our demo's live. Our demos will get picked up by overzealous nurses who want to take a shift. And I'd have to call them.
Israel, so Uber drivers, have other things that they do during the day, and
Yes.
working on a script or whatever. What are your nurses doing during the day, or when they're not, answering calls?
So a lot of our providers and nurses have full-time jobs, and we don't actually tell them, hey, go. I actually had a phone call the other day. Hey, can I quit my job and do this full-time? We don't recommend that because obviously we're starting up. But there are nurses who will do all they want to do is pick up shift because they're either a mom or they're retired, and they don't want to work the 40 hours a week or 3 12-hour shifts at a hospital. So for them, this is actually the perfect option for them to keep because they want to be a nurse. They went to school to be a registered nurse, and they want to do that. However, their lifestyle doesn't allow it.
Down here.
So, a question about how you act with nursing unions.
So that's a great question. We are actually here in Oregon, and we're actually talking to Providence as well. The nursing unions, it depends on the state. Here, they're not too bad as long as we're not trying to steal their nurses, and we're not. So that was the big question with Providence is, are you trying to recruit away our nurses? No, we're not trying to recruit your nurses. We're trying to augment your nurses' income.
Have you assessed other markets other than hospitals as partners? So hospice,
Yes,
palliative
so
care?
we actually, it's not up there anymore. So Seasons Living is assisted care. We do ambulatory surgery centers. New Health has 100 ambulatory centers throughout the U.S. We're currently in 2 of their facilities. Again, we're slowly ramping up just because our infrastructure can't handle 100 facilities.
Okay, last question.
You talked a lot about quality of care. I was wondering if there will be a rating system to kind of rate the nurses, and will hospital have the option to turn down certain nurses that perhaps they didn't like?
Yes, there will be. However, right now the MVP software does not allow it. However, we've already looked at that. So I don't know if you've been to a hospital or a clinic, you fill out a questionnaire. It's like usually 4 or 5 different subjects. We're looking at the same thing because doing like the 4-star or 5-star model doesn't really work for a nurse. I mean, you have competency, you have care, dependability. These are things that needs to be fairly evaluated. And at the same time, though, we want our fleet nurses to be able to rate the hospitals the same way because we don't want them treated unfairly either.
Okay, awesome. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you.